Hey, BSP fans, it's Tim here, and you're listening to episode 35 of the Black Swamp Podcast. Like always, thanks for tuning in. We know your schedule is likely booked, so we appreciate you letting us be a part of your day. If you like what you hear, feel free to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, then throw us a review and some stars if you listen on Apple Podcasts. That always helps boost our exposure and push our little podcast out to more percussion enthusiasts like yourself. No major housekeeping today. I will mention we did just finish our latest sound solution project, but you can still view all the educational and performance resources we shared over the last 2 weeks on our website. You can visit www.blackswamp.com/promo portal. Sorry, that's promo-portal, or visit the link in this episode's show notes. We released great content from Donnie Johns, Colleen Bernstein, Remy Thornton, JB Leclerc, Michael Patassin, and more. So this week, I got to talk to a friend and longtime BSP artist, Josh Smith. After catching up for a bit about family, travel, and just life in general, I got to learn more about some of Josh's professional development and his music publishing company, Ox and Lamb. He's got a great new subscription promotion happening called the Ox and Lamb Music Club. As a subscriber to the club, you'll receive 3 brand new percussion solo pieces, one each from composers Andrea Venet, Michael Burrett, and Dame Evelyn Gleddy, delivered straight to your inbox as a PDF. All super cool. Each solo will be between 5 to 8 minutes in length and written at an intermediate difficulty level. Imagine basically advanced high school to early college. The cost to join the club is only $45, which gets you all 3 exclusive solos available for a limited time through Ox and Lamb. So we'll throw a link in the show notes, or you can visit oxandlambmusic.com and click the What's New button to learn more. Otherwise, here's Josh.
I'm gonna have to get Ma and Pa outside to move the water wheel a little faster so our internet can work better.
Oh man,
How did the pioneers survive without internet and electronics?
I don't know. My biggest question is, how did people navigate without smartphones? Like,
Yeah.
how did you, not you, Josh, just people in general, like,
Yeah.
how did we not use Google Maps 10 years ago? Like, how did I even find McDonald's?
Yeah.
I don't have no idea.
It was just memory. It was all memory.
Yeah,
And
memory.
we remembered things.
Sometimes I talk to my dad about this. When we would go on vacation, he would get these AAA triptychs.
Oh, I
don't know if
love those.
Yeah. So it was like, and this is even before, you had before GPS, then you had Google Maps, and then you could print out directions to stuff. So that was
Yeah.
probably 10 or 12 years ago. But yeah, 20 years ago, you would, well, I don't even know how you couldn't email. So you just wrote
Yeah.
AAA, like carrier pigeon or something. And then
That's right. Or phone call. Yeah.
phone call. Woo, that's scary.
You ever talk
And
to
then-
you ever talk to a trucker who's been trucking for, decades, 20 years, 30 years?
No, I try to avoid
Some-
truckers. I hope there
if
aren't
you
any
have-
truckers listening, right?
If you have to, like at a family reunion. No, I'm serious. You talk to an old trucker and you say, oh, we're thinking of going blah, blah, blah. Like pick anywhere in the country. And then they'll
Right.
go, oh, yeah, so you're going to take 64 over to 75, da, 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 and they'll start naming all the highways because they got it.
Yeah. My brother-in-law, we used to give him a hard time sort of because we travel on like a family vacation every other year.
Yeah.
And we had Garmin's, that also before like iPhone GPS, like Google Maps and stuff
Right.
or whatever. So we had Garmin's, and he would actually follow his odometer. So he knew like, okay, it was like 55 miles to the next exit, and he
Right.
would follow his odometer. And if the exit was at actually like 54 miles or like something was up, he would pass the exit because his odometer hadn't reached 55 miles yet. So it was like, okay, like I'm not that hardcore. Like I'll actually watch for signs, I guess, but
Wasn't that on an episode of The Office where he turned into a lake?
yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
it's
totally.
telling me to turn right now.
So they end up, in a pond or a lake. So
You know, those AAA triptychs, those they had one advantage over like the maps you get, from the Bureau of Tourism or gas
right,
station
right.
maps. The AAA triptychs had where the rest stops were.
Oh yeah,
That's
sure.
that's one of the things that I loved about it. It's like, oh, okay,
All, all the key features, important stuff. Yeah.
right,
Or
yeah.
or get maybe would they have gas stations?
They
Because
had
that's where I get
little
I
symbol
get
for gas and food and rest stop. Yeah,
yeah, because I'd get stuck sometimes. Again, I mean, we don't travel too far from home regularly anymore,
Yeah.
but when we are going to North Carolina in like a month, and there is one part of like West Virginia, right past Charleston, where there's no gas stations for like it feels like 100 miles, and then
right.
I there was one time where it was like Deliverance, like we pulled off this
Yeah.
gas station, and it was like off the road by a little stream, and
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
just like mainly bait that they sold, and I hope
right.
they had gas.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
like, I was like, oof, I hope we. So now I've learned my lesson. Yeah, I make sure I get gas like right outside Charleston.
Yeah,
West
they
Virginia,
say
so.
time travel is not possible, but when you go to one of those gas stations,
Yeah.
you're going back in time a little bit.
Yeah. It was I don't know. I was just like, lock the doors, girls. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what's gonna happen. I might not get. I have to pay inside, and I might not come out. I don't know. I love
That's
you. I love you guys.
We've had a good run, folks. Yeah.
Right, right. So speaking of traveling, go ahead.
Where are you going in North Carolina?
We go to Holden Beach, which is
Okay.
right on the ocean front. Like there's a kind of a place we can rent beach houses. We've done
Nice.
it since I was kind of my girl's age, like junior high.
Cool.
And we go pretty much every other year. There was a stretch like when I was in college that I didn't go. Maybe my parents would go with their friends. They still go.
Yeah.
Every year my parents go.
I thought you were going to say they still talk about those trips.
Yeah, those are the
They-
best
they
ones.
Had a blast.
That's what I tell my girls. So like I'll reminisce with my wife. It's like, remember when we used to do that by ourselves
In the
without
BC
kids?
years. Yeah, before children.
kids. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
we
was
go.
going to
Yeah.
say, if you're going to go near Asheville, North Carolina, I highly recommend the Asheville Pinball Museum.
Oh, I saw that on a map because we were talking about taking a day, because usually we kind of caravan down sort of.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
my family, so it's like my sister and my brother-in-law and their two kids, and then my wife and my two kids, our kids, and my mom and dad, and then my mom's two sisters, so my
Yeah.
aunts. So we sort of caravan down, but we meet like halfway at a hotel the first night.
Yeah.
And I was like, we could, and that's in Virginia, just north
Mm-hmm.
of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And Asheville's like, it's maybe like a 2-hour drive from there. And I was like, we could do an overnight in Asheville. And there's like tons of like waterfalls and nature type stuff
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and cool things. And then I did see this pinball museum on the map. And I was like, who the heck goes to a pinball museum? So, Josh,
Dude.
tell me all about this pinball museum.
We did a family trip in that area, and my wife set it up. It was a total surprise. And we got there, and she's like, here it is. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And you looked inside, and there's a bunch of pinball machines, all the old school ones. I'm like,
Right.
oh, cool. And inside, I'm thinking, okay, so you got to, where do we get our quarters? We got to get a roll of quarters. She said, no, you pay one fee to get into the museum, and everything is free.
Yeah, awesome.
Like you pay whatever, $15 each or something.
Yeah.
But then in the back they have all of the old stand-up video games, and
Yeah.
I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, oh my goodness, I could have spent all day there.
Yeah, I think I would be once I got there. Right now, it doesn't sound very exciting, but
Touching all the buttons everybody's touched.
Yeah, right. You have a hazmat suit on. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, COVID might be an issue, but I'm sure we would have fun. I'm sure my girls would think it was a blast. And that actually reminds me too. My wife, this was 2 years ago. She has a coworker that had like a little party like for their team, their
Yeah.
design team where they work. And in his basement, I think he had 10, 12 pinball machines, and it was all set up and free. So like so it was just the employee, like their coworkers and stuff that went, and basically he had invited families to come. Like, next time, bring your kids, bring your families, and we'll make this a family affair. So I think it's on the schedule sometime, maybe in the next 6 to 8 months or something.
Oh,
whenever
that's fun.
Yeah. So and then there is a place another reminder, Eric at work, BSP founder, he's wanted to take like a little company field trip, like a team building thing, to there, about a half hour or 45 minutes south of where we work is a similar, like, old school arcade and pinball place. And I think it's you pay a flat fee, and then you go in and you can just play arcade games and pinball and do fun stuff. So
all day.
Yeah.
I'd be there all day.
So this does actually lead me. We'll talk about music or something, what you got going on in a minute. But
yeah, sure.
But this does lead me actually to one question, or the topic that I wanted to bring up, and you've already kind of alluded to it. You do take a lot of family trips, like you and your family, and specifically, you have a goal as a family to visit. Is it the highest point in every state, and like camp at the highest point in every state?
Well, just hike up to the highest point in every state. We do. Sometimes it's been half and half. We've tent camped and we've done that. Other times we're doing hotel stuff. But I mean, it's just a fun way to get out and see different things and see different states. It sounds, saying the highest point in every state, that sounds like, we're icing up with our axes and crampons and, we're making the summit in every state. I mean, Florida was underwhelming.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's like below sea level. The highest point in the state is below sea level.
We had to go spelunking for it. Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, it's cool, man. I mean, it's the highest point above sea level, but that doesn't mean it's the highest from base to summit. But it's just fun, we plan our trips for whatever state we're going to, or multiple states. And then while we're there, we're also tourists. We just kind of mess around and see what's going on. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. We're up to 23 states now.
Holy cow. That's almost half of them, I think.
We're 2 away from half, I know.
I'd have to get my calculator out, but I'm pretty sure that's close to half the states. So is that like how you found the pinball museum? Was that part of it, or?
No, that was something different. We had already done the North Carolina High Point, but no, we just, I don't know, we just really enjoy our time together. We're pretty selfish with our time with each other, and our kids are in middle school now, but they still love it. I mean, we started it 7, 8 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
And they always look forward to our High Point trips.
Yeah. Is that what you call it? That's like we're doing our High Point trip? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it, how long are you on the road? Like 1 to 2 weeks, or you just try to keep it to a week and hit a bunch of different places?
It just depends. We did the longest one we've done so far. We did 5 states in one trip, and that was like Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee. And that was a 6-day trip. So sometimes we can knock out 1 or 2 like in a driving route, you know what I mean? And then we'll stay somewhere, and then we'll mess around, and then we'll leave and do another couple on our way to the next thing. So we kind of map it out pretty strategically, because most of the time the high points, it's like, states make something of it. There's usually a sign, but it's not like a big Six Flags every time you go, So you kind of have to plan other things around it.
Well, that was, I guess, one kind of point I was going to make is probably the highest point in each state isn't the most exciting point in each state. So you kind of have to like figure out, okay, what are you going to do on the way there? But I think just it's what's exciting is like, it's sort of the goal, and like it's a family, like you're saying, like you're selfish with your time as a family, which I interpret as like you enjoy spending time with your, like, as a whole, as a family, and you want to do it as much as possible, I guess, if I'm hearing that correctly. And then
you are,
and then I guess what I find the coolest thing about it, and why I always sort of remember it, like when we see each other at PASIC or whenever other times, like that's what I always kind of think about, because I think it's a really cool like goal as a family, like almost like a little mission that you have, and that everybody's on board with it. So how, like, whose idea was that? Like you or You're,
It was me and my
you-
wife.
yeah,
At that time, our kids were itty bitty, it seems like, and we were living in a pretty small town, and we noticed that a lot of people kind of didn't really get out and do much. And my wife and I always we try to get out and do stuff. In the BC years, we would go out and hike and kayak and canoe and
right,
do things like that. And we were like, "Oh, we've got to get our kids out of sort of just our immediate surroundings. And we've learned that we like to vacation, sort of do something different and see something new.
right.
Um, I don't know. I mean, we've used like families timeshares before, and while we're there, it's like, oh, this is great. I don't know if I'd want to be here every year though. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Those kinds of things. It's like, okay, well, let's just do something different. And then my wife is a speech language pathologist, and she had a patient years ago.
Say that 5 times fast.
That's right. That's right.
So that was a little speech language pathologist joke there. I can't even say it. So
Yeah.
sorry. That was stupid. That was a dad joke. Keep
No,
going,
man,
Josh.
I'm on board, Tim. I'm on board.
Right.
And she had a patient that said that they did that. And she just always had it simmering in the back of her mind. And then once we started thinking
Yeah.
about what to do, we were like, let's try it out. Okay. And
Yeah.
so at that time, I think Mississippi was the closest one to where we were living. And so we ended up taking a wrong turn and went to Shiloh National Battlefield. I'm not sure
Okay.
it's like one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War down
Right.
southern Tennessee, northern Mississippi area, something like that. And so that was kind of on the way there, and we just stopped and we got out and walked around and thought, oh wow, this is pretty cool. So that helped kind of form the vision of everything. Okay, so I'll go, here are the high points on the map, boom, boom, boom. Well, let's look around there. So on the way we could deviate and do this and do this. So I mean,
Yeah.
we've just really had a blast putting everything together. A few years ago, we went out and did the Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota,
Right.
and kind of looped our way back. That was our biggest road trip at the time, and we hiked around in the Badlands. If you've never been there, I
I
highly
haven't.
suggest it. Oh wow, wow, it's just fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like another world out there. It's really wonderful.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. My wife and I talk about like, you know, things we would want to do. Like, yeah, we've never been to like the Dakotas.
Yeah,
Arizona, we went there like Grand Canyon a couple of years ago. That was
yeah,
amazing. So kind of
yeah.
next on our list was Southern Utah. You know,
Oh my
even
goodness.
even cities like we've never like I've been to Washington D.C., but literally like the train station. And
Yeah,
so it was like we got out, and Eric and I had taken a trip years ago. You know, we went by train, so kind of we went to Steve Weiss Music and a couple other
yeah,
places, like visit some retailers out there, and
sure.
we kind of went by train and then rented a car. We visited some vendors too, I guess, on the East Coast. But so we got to DC, and we basically just like walked out of the train station and looked around and then walked back in and got back on the train
Yeah,
and
yeah.
left. So we're like,
Yeah,
we would want to do stuff like that, or even go to Philadelphia, like more kind of historic places. And then I think that's part of why we wanted to at least do an overnight in Asheville, like on the way, because I mean, we love going down to Holden Beach, which is like southern North Carolina, right on the
yeah,
coast, like just north of South Carolina. Um,
sure.
and we're right on the ocean, and the girls, we pretty much just chill for 5 days. And there's like a cool aquarium in
Yeah.
like outside of that area in Southport. Um, and so we usually do that, but we're kind of like, we would like to do something, different. And so
Yeah.
we were thinking about going to Asheville, but I don't know if it's going to work out. So
You may be close to the high point. I think North Carolina is Mount Mitchell, and
okay,
that's one of the ones that sticks in our memory. It was really
yeah,
pretty up there.
yeah. I was going to ask because we always drive by also Fancy Gap, which is where what's the road that goes like all the way I keep wanting to say Blue Star Highway, but that's in
Where's
that's
a
in
trucker when
Michigan.
you need it?
Yeah, I know. It's like the big.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the one that's like
Yeah.
totally scenic, like a
Like
super scenic drive.
Shenandoah Overpass, or the
Yeah, I don't know.
through the
It
Blue
like
Ridge Mountains.
Blue Ridge Parkway is what it's called.
Blue Ridge
Yeah, yeah.
Parkway. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we were gonna try to hop on that, but Fancy Gap is like right there, and there's like this huge kind of, like I was gonna say a structure, some sort of stone structure there,
Hmm.
So I was curious if maybe it was part of that, but
I don't
yeah.
remember that. Maybe.
Okay, cool. So enough about enough about our travel experiences.
No, that's
So
cool.
let's
It's fun to talk about that.
yeah. Yeah, it was on my mental notes. I didn't have any. I don't have any written notes for this conversation, but it was on definitely in my
Perfect.
mental notes. So let's go even further back, BC, before kids, and
Okay.
maybe not before college, not that far BC,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I know you live in Kentucky now,
Yep.
and
Lexington, Kentucky. Yep.
right, and you went to. I know you went to school in North Texas. You got your doctorate at North Texas.
Right.
But I'll be straight up. I don't. We've known each other a long time, and I don't really know much that much more about like sort of your backstory and
Oh
kind
no,
of where
that's
you went to
okay.
school and grew up. So I don't know. Bird's eye view. Like what? Tell me kind of how you got started in percussion. How you. I don't know really where you're from. I can tell
Yeah.
you're from the South a little bit
Okay.
because of the way that you talk.
Yeah.
Sorry, was that that was totally rude. Sorry. Uh,
That's all right.
okay,
I
you
can,
make fun of me now, Josh.
I can turn it on and off. It's okay.
Do a Midwest act. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just talk through your nose the rest of the interview, and then you'll sound like me.
Perfect. Perfect. I can do that.
So yeah, just give me a little bit of backstory.
Oh, I forgot who it was. I was listening. It's like a few episodes ago. Somebody started percussion like in grade school
Right.
and like second grade, and that was my story as well.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I
Cool.
was born in North Carolina, and my folks ended up moving up into the Buffalo, New York area, and
Okay.
that's where I was in grade school, and I started in second grade. And it was just so, I think about it all the time. It was so serendipitous. It was like uh, they had band tryouts, and I was like, I thought about it now. I'm not going to do that. And then band tryouts were done, and so we just went about our school day. And the band director went to every single classroom in the second grade and said, he was saying, hey, we need another drummer. We need another percussion person. Anybody in this class? And then I thought, okay, this is my chance. Sure, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I got in there, and I just loved it, man. I just loved it. And so that was kind of my gateway,
Right.
just school band program. And we did parades and concerts and things like that.
That was second grade,
Second,
or that.
yeah,
Oh, holy cow.
at
Yeah.
9 years old.
I'm trying to remember who that conversation was with because I do kind of remember them.
It was somebody
Whatever.
out of D.C., I think. They live in
Yeah.
D.C. now.
Oh, maybe Donnie Johns, who's
I think so.
in the DC area. Yeah, I remember talking to him about it. And that kind of blows my mind. Like, what was I doing in second grade? Yeah, I wasn't thinking about playing percussion. I guess it was like fifth grade, so it's not far after that. But
It's not far, no. But it was just, and I think about that now when I think about, when our kids were growing up, we were asking other music people or whatever, so when's a good time to start doing music lessons? Not like we were, we had this fire under us. Okay, they've got to follow in my footsteps or anything like that. It's like, okay, they're getting older, and then they said as soon as your kids can start talking and forming words and sentences, that's also a good time to start introducing music. And I
Yeah,
thought,
good
oh,
point.
okay. Suzuki, they start, as soon
Right.
as they're, they go into their 1 year birthday cake and they pull out a violin bow. So they start,
Yeah.
pretty early.
Right.
It's like, okay. And then I thought, well, golly, I started in second grade, I mean, anyway, I think it's just maybe the Northeast and
right.
kind of that.
Sorry,
It,
can we just acknowledge the fact that you said golly too?
did
Is
I?
that is that a normal word in your sort of daily
That's-
vocabulary? Golly.
That's about as it's about as cuss word as I get, I think.
Well, it was pretty intense. So I'm gonna write golly down, and I'm gonna try to substitute that when I do, because I can't say worse than that, and I
Yeah.
have, and I
Yeah,
shouldn't.
I do
so
too
I will.
sometimes.
No. I will write. I'm gonna put a mental thumbtack in the word golly. So
Yeah.
okay,
Well, I knew
keep
you
going.
didn't want to put one of those explicit labels on the podcast.
Yeah, right.
line, so-
I'm gonna bleep out the word golly. So
Right. Well, no, that's why I chose golly.
all right.
Anyway,
yeah.
I even forgot what we were talking. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I just did that, and like I said, maybe that's a Northeast thing or something. I don't know, because the other guy I was listening to, he was in that area or that part of the country. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't know. Maybe they just approach it differently.
Well, I know now, like, I mean, where we live, and this is kind of the area I grew up to, where I live now, and like my daughter started violin in sixth grade, and so, which is, I think I started percussion in fifth grade or whatever, and
Yeah.
So, and then okay, so you're in percussion since like second grade,
Yeah.
like, and then all the way, obviously all the way through high
I was
school, all the way through college and
haven't
doctoral
stopped
program.
since.
And everything. Yeah,
Haven't stopped
right,
since. Yeah.
right.
I
And
remember. I remember doing lessons out in the hallway with my Haskell Har
oh yeah,
drum book. I found it I was cleaning out some stuff and I found my Haskell Har thing and I saw notes that I had written and dates for
wow,
the assignments and stuff and my
yeah,
practice log. I still have my slanted practice pad.
yeah,
You know what I
cool.
mean? Yeah. So
I
yeah. So
no,
go ahead.
it's no, it's just funny about how you like remember things, or you found some stuff. Like I think the furthest back I go is like kind of college era. Like we'll,
Yeah.
in our storage room, I have like some old notebooks or music. I kind of have a catalog of music when I used to play,
Yeah.
solos, marimba solos and vibe solos and whatever multi percussion stuff. And so sometimes if I'm just like getting a light bulb or changing the furnace filter, I'll
Yeah.
kind of poke through that stuff a little bit,
It's
and like
fun.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, it brings back some memories. But I do like from when I started, I have one specific memory of and he was a band director in our area, not at the school I went to, but he kind of worked with the young percussionists at my school,
Yeah.
and he was a
Yeah.
local band director and a percussionist. And there was one time, he had 8 or 9, fifth grade percussionists trying to figure out how to hold sticks and play, basic rhythms and stuff, and it
Yeah.
was a mess. And he's like, I'm gonna use this French word to describe how that just went. And he's like, that sounded like garbage. Like it's, instead of garbage, it was garbage. Like that always sticks out to me. Like we were like, wow, he's gonna speak French to us. Like, oh, we just got dissed big time.
Yeah.
So
That's like, yeah, that's like old school Rick rolling. They set you
right.
up and then they just boom
Yeah,
hit you with it.
yeah, yeah. So where did you? Okay, so you played through high school. Were you in New York
Yeah.
all through high school, or you
No,
moved since then?
fifth grade, I moved out to Kansas and I was in Kansas for 4 years. My folks split up, and so my sister and I kind of hopped back and forth living with mom and then living with dad.
Oh, I see.
And
Sure.
my dad was out in Kansas, and then after that, my mom is from Kentucky, and so when it was time to live with her, I moved to Kentucky, and then so then that was like ninth grade on.
All right.
Yeah.
And then where did you go to undergrad then? Like, where'd you start going to school? Because I know you
UK.
ended it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
UK was my undergrad. So when I
Right.
moved to Kentucky, I was in Lexington, and
Right.
that's where your University of Kentucky is.
Right. I do remember that now because
Yeah,
at PASIC you usually have like a UK, either like an alumni sticker or a little patch or something on your badge. So okay,
yeah,
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 these are ringing bells now. I hear lots of bells. Right, this is all coming back to me.
yeah.
And then North Texas, for
Well,
just
after that, well, after I did my undergrad there, I was on the super senior program, so it took more than 4 years.
yeah,
After
been
that, I
there.
got the whole time I started off as an electrical engineering major, and
Oh, dude,
I
that
did,
that
yeah.
stinks.
No, I mean, it was fine for a
Yeah,
year, and I was fine with the classes and everything, but I was just looking around and I thought, golly, these are not my people.
yeah,
And I was talking to my mom about it. She said, just pick a major in something you love to do. And
yeah,
I'm like, well, I mean, I can do electrical engineering, but I don't love it. Let me think, what do I love to do? Drumline. That's the only thing
yeah,
I love to do. It's like, all right, I guess I'll be a music major. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so I
No,
did.
that's exactly what happened to me. Sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt, but like I played all through high school, and that's like the only thing I excelled at. I tried to play sports, and it didn't work. I
Hmm.
was just like, I had to work at music. I had to practice, obviously, but it was like it sort of came a little more naturally to me. And yeah, my dad is or was an audio engineer, like a speaker audio engineer,
Cool. Yeah.
and I was like, I was kind of into drafting and drawing also in high school,
Yeah.
like art, but then also mechanical drawing and drafting and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's what engineers do. I'll be an engineer like my dad. And
Hmm.
I think even then, like my freshman year in college, I think my dad was like, "What is this kid doing? Like, what?
Hmm.
This isn't your
So
jam. Like, you're not wired like that." And I wasn't, man. I got into
interesting.
calculus, and I got into like some engineering classes, and I was
Yeah, yeah.
even being in the engineering building, I was like, "Oh, this is not me." And so I switched to being a music major my second year, and my
Isn't
dad was
that
like, "Yeah, about time." Like,
isn't
yeah,
that funny how
perfect.
your dad saw that before you did?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what
I'll
I
tell
mean?
him. Yeah, my wife's a graphic designer, and I've told her many times, like when was sitting down with my folks, kind of figuring out
Yeah.
maybe a possible career path and stuff, and my dad's like, I think you should look into graphic design because
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of artistic and you like
Sure.
that drafting and drawing, and I was like, no, Dad, I'm gonna be an engineer like you.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
door.
I've
What
always
a
said if I didn't do music, my other career choice probably would have been some kind of graphic artist or
oh yeah,
architect or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's I don't know. Wait, I mean, and at Black Swamp, I don't have a marketing degree, and I don't have a design degree, and
Yeah.
I, and I've used my wife, like before, like to do work for us,
Sure.
but then I've also kind of picked stuff up along the way, so I do kind of get
Yeah.
to do some of it. I'm dangerous enough. I know enough to be dangerous, like using
Yeah.
Photoshop and InDesign and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. For sure.
if there's major heavy lifting, I try to pull my wife into. So,
Right.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Twist her arm.
yeah, I do sometimes actually. Okay, so you were gonna be an engineering major, and you were like,
Yeah.
"This
One
isn't
year
me."
of that. Yeah. So then I decided, okay, I'm just going to do music, but I refused to be a band director. It's like, all right,
Yeah,
fine. So
same.
spent my 5 years. Like I did my first year. I was on the 6 year plan, so I
Mhm.
feel like I had my first 3 years and then my three senior years. And that I enjoyed it so much. I just took my time with it, and I didn't get into the music stuff until a year later. So it took me 5 years
Mhm.
anyway. And then the whole time I'm like, no way am I going to be a band director. I still don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm not going to be a band director. So I graduated, got my first job as a band director.
Ah, nice.
And
Yeah,
yeah, I was the assistant director, and I conducted one of the bands, and I did all the percussion stuff and general music stuff. And
yeah.
at the time in Kentucky, every teacher had to have their master's. There was some education reform act that was enacted by the state government, and you had 5 years to get halfway through your master's degree, and then you had another 5 years to complete it. So K through 12, everybody had to have their master's. Didn't matter what they taught. And I was getting to the end of my fourth year, and I had gotten married at the time. And I said to my wife, I said, "Look, I'm not even anywhere close to getting 15 hours in a master's. I'm thinking we should just I could just cut ties, just go into a master's program full on, and then figure out, just go back to band directing after that. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, well, I'm in." So then I auditioned a couple places and went out to James Madison University out in Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley, close to the
Oh,
Blue
okay.
Ridge Parkway. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And so that was for your masters.
Yep, I did my master's there, and then I stayed an extra year. Bill Rice was the professor there, and he asked me to stay and teach adjunct for another year, so I did that. And that whole time I was auditioning for DMA programs because I said to my wife, I said, if I want to teach college, then it's kind of, this is the best time to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
sure.
it'll just be another 3 years after this, and then
Just
auditioned
another
several.
3 years. I mean, you've already put in a 7 or 8. What's another 3?
What's another three?
Right.
It takes a lot of people,
Yeah.
9 years to finish college. Isn't that from Tommy Boy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then started the program out at North Texas and did that for 3 years and graduated, and then got a teaching job in Tennessee. That was my first college, like full-time college teaching job. But I had,
Right.
taught adjunct and kind of pieced things together along the way.
Yeah. Cool. And that's kind of what you're doing now in Kentucky.
Yeah, yeah. Transitioned back to Kentucky, back to we have two sets of grandparents here, and I have some good connections here, and we moved back here. And I'm teaching out at Morehead State University, and I'm also teaching at University of Kentucky. I teach the drumline at UK
Oh,
during
no
football
kidding.
season,
Yeah.
and then
Great.
that whole time I teach adjunct percussion lessons, applied lessons, class percussion, and now I'm conducting one of the concert bands at Morehead. So
Dude.
yeah,
So
so
all
I'm
that that band director experience is going to come in handy now, like 20 years later.
Yeah. Well, no, I did that when I taught at Bethel University in Tennessee. I also
Oh, that's right.
was
Yeah, I remember
I was
that.
the associate director there, and so I did all the percussion. And there were only 6 full-time faculty, so we all had all kinds of hats that we wore.
Yeah.
So I was the director of the wind band there, and a buddy of mine, we tag teamed the marching band, and I taught music theory and history of American pop music, and
Yeah, cool.
just all of those things that people at small schools do. You just kind of teach everything.
All right. So, on top of all the teaching and vacationing with your family, and or just traveling from different schools and stuff like that, you also decided at some point it would be a great idea to start a music publishing company.
Yeah, Ox and Lamb Music. Yeah, it was
Right.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so that's I mean, kind of one of the main things that I wanted to talk to you about, like,
Sure.
how that developed, and you kind of have some cool, you have a cool project going on now with a publication project, and then kind of seeing what's going on in the future. So, give me the backstory on Ox and Lamb, like how did that take shape?
Yeah, there are a couple things that went into play with that. One is my wife's father retired, and he was a chief financial officer of a big medical association with the University of Kentucky hospitals. And he retired, and they moved out to Arizona. You mentioned Arizona. And he couldn't get a job. He couldn't get a job even as like a bank teller for whatever reason, maybe because of age or whatever. Whatever
Was he a bank robber?
No, he wasn't a bank robber. No.
Okay, that would be like maybe the first thing that you wouldn't be able to get a job.
No,
that
I
was
told
my
him.
second dad joke for that.
Yeah, no, I told him that's the first thing he should say. By the way, I'm not a bank robber.
Right.
He said it at every interview, but I don't know why he didn't get any bites.
Right.
I don't know. So anyway, and I thought, well, golly,
Yeah.
I
Beep.
just wanted to make I just wanted to make you smile again. Yeah, I just thought, well, okay, so when all this is said and done, that'd be 35 years when I retire, at that point, and it's like, I want to have something to do. So if I start now, then I'll have that, it'll be built up by the time I can retire or I'm at retirement age.
Right.
So that was a big factor. And another factor is I had a couple of pieces published with other folks, and I had on one of them I wanted to make sure I had like an instrument key. It was a percussion ensemble piece. And I wanted to have an instrument key on the top of each page, just a little graphic of this is the staff, this is tom, this is bass drum, this is cymbal. You know what I mean? Instead of one master sheet in the score, I wanted it on everybody's part. And I sent it off to the person, and he goes, okay, well, I can't do that. It's like, well, what program are you using? And he told me, I'm using Finale. I said, okay, what version? He told me, and I said, okay, here's what you do. And I step by step, go to the menu, choose this, do this, do this, select this, do this, do. And then he got back to me about a week later. He's like, I can't do it. Sorry, it's just not going to have it on the music. And I was like, okay. And I thought to myself, and then so that was right about the same time I was reading a piece of music from another publisher, and there were typos, and the margins were running into each other, and me kind of having that engineering architect kind of visual perspective that I have. Yeah. It's like, I can do this better. I know I can do this better. And it's like, okay, well, I think then maybe that's what I should do. Yeah. So that's what started Ox and Lamb.
Yeah. And what about the name? Does anybody ever ask you about the name?
Not as many people as you would think. Well, I wanted something memorable, and I wanted something. I read somewhere that if it has like a hard consonant, like a K in the title, Ox, you know what I mean? Then it's more memorable, and it's a little bit more of a hook. And if you think about, Skype has a K in it, anyway.
Yeah. Black Swamp Percussion.
I was just going to say that.
Right.
But there's one of the verses in the Christmas Carol, Little Drummer Boy.
Yeah, sure.
It says, Mary nodded, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. The ox and lamb kept time, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. And I don't know, that was just always a cool image to me of that. So I thought, okay, that's memorable. And then I talked to somebody who was a graphics person, and they designed the logo, and we went back and forth. And that's just kind of, that's where we are today.
Today's episode is brought to you by Primephonic, the streaming service designed for classical music. Primephonic is here to save classical music for the streaming era. The app features high-res audio, radio on demand, curated playlists, and podcasts with famous artists. Times are tough these days, but Primephonic pays classical musicians in a fair way, paying per second and not per track. This is a huge deal compared to the other services that only pay artists per song. The app features a massive catalog featuring some of our favorites here at the shop, like John Cage, Steve Reich, Evelyn Glennie, and Ivan Trevino. For a limited time, Black Swamp podcast listeners are getting 2 months free of Primephonic with the exclusive promo code Black Swamp. Visit the link in the show notes, enter the promo code, and you're good to go. Again, that promo code is Black Swamp, all caps and all one word. Primephonic, the streaming service designed for classical music.
So sometimes I ask people kind of entrepreneurial. How do you say it?
Yeah.
I always say that wrong too. Entrepreneurial?
Entrepreneurial.
About being an entrepreneur. And like, and kind of having that spirit or having a little bit of that drive, like, does that play a little bit of part in kind of starting your own company? I mean, you sort of mentioned like having something to do, like having something in the future, like to like kind of a project that would be a longer lasting thing. And then obviously having, you know, your own thoughts and ideas of how things should look and go. I think that's really part of it. But is there anything else that you're like, hey, I think I want to do this because you're kind of maybe business minded or have a sort of a sense of being an entrepreneur, or have you never thought of it that way?
I don't know. I mean, I guess my relationship with my dad was not fantastic, but I did glean a couple of things just in living with him for those few years I did, where he would just kind of do things on his own, like converted this room into another room. It's like, what? Oh, and I saw him tearing down the walls. I'm like, oh, okay. And I remember, as a kid saying to myself, that doesn't look that hard. You know what I mean? I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, but in my head, I was like, oh, is that all you do? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I listened to some podcasts as I was getting closer to sort of launching it. I listened to some podcasts, and the attitude of all of these stories. One is called Side Hustle School. So if anybody's thinking about doing anything on their own or anything like that, check out just a few episodes of Side Hustle School. Every episode is a story of somebody who saw a need and saw that it wasn't getting served and then decided to jump in to fill the need. I mean, it was so random.
Sure.
The example I use for a lot of people is this guy was at his buddy's house. They were getting ready to go fishing, and he needed worms. He needed to stop by the worms. And so he asked him, he's like, so where do these gas stations get the worms? Where do they get the bait? Right. You know what I mean? It can't be all from this one gas station in the middle of North Carolina where the church family stops. You know what I mean? And so he's like, well, I don't know. So he started doing research, and evidently there's this one place in Thailand or wherever that supplies worms and minnows to everybody in the country. And so he's like, okay. So he set up a website to drop ship worms and minnows to people. So he doesn't have to handle the product. He doesn't have to store, worms in his garage, and he just manages the website, and he makes like $4,000 a month just running the website of worms and minnows. You know what I mean? Yeah. And every episode of that podcast is like that. I mean, it's not like everybody's making $1 million, but it's like the whole umbrella of everything is like people have an idea and they just go for it. So I'm like, well, shoot, I'm just going to go for it then. I'm going to learn a lot of the way, and I have learned a lot along the way, but at least I'm going for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think I respect and admire that, because I feel like that's exactly how Black Swamp got started, even before I started working there. I mean, when Eric was just building some instruments for himself and then kind of showing them the people, and then essentially a hobby, and then exactly like you're saying, like kind of filling a need or seeing some gaps in the instruments within the industry, and maybe something that he can offer to fill those. And that's really how it got started. And then taking a pretty big step to be like, okay, I'm gonna devote all my time and resources and energy into making this happen. So I think it's super cool.
and to further kind of keep the plug chain going on on this podcast, the BSP Collective, that was my first real major project.
Yeah,
and
sure.
you talk about time. I mean, I can take you to the chair and the table that I sat at. I mean, there were so many hours of putting together that collection of, I think it's 9 multi-percussion solos from all of these different people from affiliated with Black Swamp, and bringing those all together into one collection that looks the same and has the same font, like my nerdy layer is like, it's got to have the same font. It's got to have blah, 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 all of that stuff that normal, like just book publishers and stuff and format people think of. And also to bring in that layer of, okay, I'm a musician. I can't have the page turn there because it's right in the middle of a phrase. So I need to, I need to space out the music so there's no awkward page turns and.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, all that stuff I didn't think about when we decided to do it, because it turned in. I mean, a little bit of backstory there. It turned into a far larger project than I was anticipating, and like stuff that I didn't even think about.
It's so cool, though. I mean, it's so cool. I love it. Yeah. And also, I got, I was expecting Finale and Sibelius, and I had 2 people give me stuff that was in a different program. Like, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it was sort of like a free program or whatever, free music. So I had to get that, and I had to convert all of it. And I had a couple of that were handwritten. Corey Hill's the storytelling, the storybook. Multi-percussion thing. Yeah. His was handwritten. And so I had to start from scratch with that, and man, I was a little bummed because I got his on 11x17 landscape, tabloid, and it looked sweet. Yeah. And then I got to the end of the road and he signed off on it, and I'm like, this is it. He's like, yeah, it looks great. Okay, cool. Here we go. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. The whole collection is going to be 8.5x11 portrait, not landscape. Yeah. So I had to reformat everything on his, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a lot of work. And again, like stuff that I didn't even think about, to be honest. Awesome job pulling it together. Like, more than anything, I would think I was just sending you emails being like, hey, what's the status on this? Hey, what's the progress on this? And like trying to organize it. Like, and I also got, and I'm not sure if I ever told you this, but I did get my hand slapped a little bit at work when my CFO, because I mean, kind of my end was, the idea and coming up with it, but also sending instruments to composers and kind of trying to tie all this kind of stuff together that they can use these groups of instruments plus some other stuff and make it accessible and things like that. And when my CFO realized that I sent out, thousands of dollars worth of instruments to people, and she didn't know if it was coming back because she didn't know if it was like, was it being purchased? Is it given away? Like, what's happening? So I had a lot of explaining to do after we got this project off the ground, and I was there's no turning back now. Like, so everything's already been sent out. So
we're already in it. Yeah.
So I guess before we move on to your current project, I'll just throw out, I already have some wheels. My gears are turning a little bit for maybe a volume 2. So
I can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be a follow-up conversation. I don't know, but
that'll be great.
And obviously I will do stuff much differently in the future, like try to make it all easier. Like, I mean, just a lot of things that I would do differently. Just diversity and representation of the people, of the composers involved, and the sort of the scope of the project, and not overwhelming you with all of the content and the sort of the more business aspect of it on my side. So a lot of stuff to think through.
That was like 3 years ago, I think. That was something like 3. Yeah, 3 or 4. I've gotten a lot faster. Since cool. Then. But also, I mean. No. I mean, when I think about this project and when I think about publishing and stuff, it's like I don't mind doing all of this work on the front end. You know what I mean? Because once it's out there and it's there for the public, I'm sort of my hands are, I'm finished with it as far as
Yeah.
the nitty gritty work. I may have to do some tweaks or something, but that's a rarity. So I
Right.
don't mind doing all the work in the beginning of it as long as the finished product is worth it. And that's what I tell all the composers that I speak to, or potential composers that I can publish. It's like, look, I'll do all the work. It's okay. That's
Right.
part of the publisher's job, is to format and decide and make those kinds of calls. As long as at the end we're both happy with it, and we're both comfortable with the product and pleased with the music that will sort of live on in perpetuity after this.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting point, because I'm used to doing everything myself too, like just as far as kind of growing and building marketing efforts within Black Swamp Percussion.
Sure. Yeah.
And like basically, yeah, putting everything together. And
It's a lot.
yeah, and so I'm used to kind of that hands-on aspect, and then
Right.
so being able to like let something go, I think that was a little difficult for me too. It was a little bit of an ego adjustment too, but like, and then not and feel like I was following up with you like all the time. So, and what's
No,
crazy it is so if it's been like maybe 3 or so years since it published, like, I mean, it took a year and a half or more almost to like even get to it to be published. Like, it was an idea
Absolutely.
that I remember talking to Jamel at work about it, like probably 2 years before everything got published. Like, hey, Jamel, what would you think if I sent out a bunch of gear to some of our artists and educators who I know are composers, and let them like write? I was literally thinking like an etude, like 1-page, like
Sure,
etude.
yeah.
And then when everything, as I started corresponding with people, and it just like turned into a much bigger project. And so, but I think it's great.
Oh
And
man, I'm so pleased with how it turned out. Yeah.
yeah,
Totally cool.
So what I'm sure you're also pleased that this turned out is like your latest project, which does it? Sorry. See, this is why I like to have notes going in advance, Josh. There's like a subscription service through Oxen Lamb, and
Yes.
then you're working with, I know, Andrew Vinay, Evelyn Glennie, and then I think Michael Burrett.
Yes.
And they've all written solos for
Yep.
Oxen Lamb, and then it's kind of a subscription thing where they're gradually, they have maybe already been released. But tell me about
Yeah.
that project, so I don't you talk about it, so I don't slaughter it.
Okay. No, I call it the Music Club, the Oxen Lane Music Club, and my
Right.
my wife keeps telling me I need to change the name, and I might change the name. I don't know. I think I should, because my initial thought was, so here's the genesis of that. I don't know if you know, like every now and then you get to see an ad on Facebook. It's like a T-shirt club where
Yeah.
you pay $15 a month from this company, and you get a whatever T-shirt. Maybe it's a
Right.
theme, like they're all like random space things or whatever, or outdoorsy things, or just logos or whatever.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's cool. And I sent out a survey, and I thought, well, what if we did that with music? What if everybody paid a flat fee of whatever, and every month they got a new piece of music, and I would commission 10 or 12 pieces from 12 different composers. And I sent out a survey to like 70 different schools, and I got hundreds of responses back, and a lot of them said that's too much music to consume in a year. I was like, oh, okay. You know what? I guess I didn't think about that. They said if we're lucky, we'd get to maybe 2 or 3 of them, and the rest would just live in the filing cabinet. I was like, okay. So then I just thought, okay, how about we just did 3 heavy hitter folks? And so really, it's kind of like a 3-for-1. You pay $45 and you get 3 pieces of music. So
Yeah.
think about it, $15 for each person, for
Yeah.
each solo. And I wanted it to be a substantial solo between 5 and 8 minutes, and all the composers came in on board with that. And this can be something that you purchase, and whether you play it immediately or not, it's something that you'll have. And the kicker is it's only available for this 1 year. My original intent was to release the first one in January, release the next one like in May, like kind of in quarters, like every 4 months, and release the third one in August and September. But I'm finding out, at least I'm trying to read people's minds. I'm sure you all do this as well. It's like, why aren't people buying more castanets?
Right.
It's like, I don't think they're buying it because they don't know what the music is yet. The T-shirt, you get the gist of it. It's going to be
Yeah, sure.
a color, that'll be fine. Some logo, fine. I know what a T-shirt is. But
Yeah.
with music, I think people are a little bit more discerning and intimate with it. They know the composers, but they may not know the music. So I'm in the middle of formatting Mike Burrett's piece. I'm almost finished with that. That was going to be released in May anyway. I already have Evelyn's piece finished and it's ready to go. As soon as I finish Mike's, I'm just going to release all of them. And from here on out, the Music Club, name TBD, is going to be as if you buy it, you get all three pieces January 1st, or whenever you buy it within that calendar year, you're going to get all three at the same time. And I'll have previews and videos and sound samples of all three immediately, so that people kind of know what they're getting into. But I'm so excited. The music just turned out so well. Mike's is a little bit, and I wanted it to be like hotshot high school, early college folks, freshman, sophomore, junior year of college. Mike's is a little bit more difficult, and we were talking, he's like, man, I wrote it hard, what can I say? I just can't help it. I was like, okay,
Right.
Man, no problem. I think everybody will understand.
Yeah.
I'm so happy with that. I'm so happy with Andrea's piece, and I'm so happy with Evelyn's piece. I mean, everything has just really, really come together so nicely. And I've already contacted folks for the next year. This is something I plan to do every year. You do the $45, the 3-for-1 deal. And then after this year, I mean, I told all the publishers they get all of their music back and they can do whatever they want with it. They may publish it through their own things. I'll probably do an ask, say, hey, I'll only ask once, but I would love to keep it in the Ox and Lamb catalog, and then that'll be a different price point and a different set of, royalty stipulations and things like that.
Sure.
But anyway, so that's what's rolling right now. That's the project that's on the front burner right now for me.
Yeah, it's exciting. Also because, I think the project is cool and the idea, like the concept, is really smart. Especially, I think you're right. There's, like, I was talking to my dad about it a couple months ago, or even I think like maybe even last fall, about like these subscription services, and he's like, I'm. Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of my dad's voice. I did go into my. You know what? Yeah. Sorry, Dad. He does listen sometimes, so I'll apologize right now, Dad. I'll use my voice for my dad. We all do it. So I already made fun of your voice, Josh. So now I'm like so he's like, I am subscribed to this like I think it's like Biblical Archaeology Review magazine or something. Yeah. And he's like, there's a, they have this subscription thing where you buy, you kind of pay up front, and then you get these, not only the magazine, but some other gifts and other things like that. And I think it was about around the same time, like shortly after shutdown too, that you and I were talking about like that project. And so I think it's really smart. And I don't know I think you were planning it before the pandemic, obviously.
Yeah,
I think you were. But even so, I think it's a great kind of like pivot for the company, like for Ox and Lamb. Like, you have obviously, you're, I don't want to say normal publications, but like ongoing publications.
Sure,
but then you have something different that's like the subscription based and something unique and special. And honestly, we're probably going to steal it. Black Swamp is going to sort of steal your idea, because after we talked about it, I went back and I was like, I mean, we're not going to publish music, obviously, but like just kind of the idea, I think, is really kind of smart. And and it keeps things fresh.
We'll do a 50-50 split, Tim. That's fine.
That's fine. No. Because on our end, I kind of equate it like from us. And I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I'll do, like you said through Moorhead, we did I did a presentation, like kind of a Zoom hang, and talk about product and stuff. And I think I did mention like our creativity, like as craftsmen and as woodworkers and musicians, and kind of finding an outlet for that. And that outlet isn't always like our main catalog. Sometimes it's limited edition product, or sometimes
limited edition.
So it's like, or sometimes we got to charge a little bit more of a premium for it. So or we're like, okay, we're not going to sell thousands of these, over the next couple years or whatever,
Right.
So it's kind of more of a specialty thing. So again, the limited edition aspect comes up. So that's how I kind of equate it in my mind. Like,
absolutely.
If we were to do something like similar, it would be kind of really creative, like product based, or like kind of limited edition stuff. And
I think of those hand carved drums that Eric did. I saw so many videos of him just chipping away. I thought, man, if I had the cash, I'd get one of those, because you look back on some of that limited edition stuff, and it's like I have a djembe that I bought from a company that's out of business now. They're
Sure.
completely gone off the map and not coming back. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
kind of glad I have that drum. It's got special wood, special blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I think again it's sort of an outlet for our creativity. And,
For sure.
Yeah, I mean for like our anniversary, we've for our 20th and then recently our 25th anniversary, we did some limited edition.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It was a super exciting year. Like last year was our 25th anniversary, so yeah, and we were able to release like some limited edition products and do
Cool.
that type of stuff. So yeah, I think it's kind of special what you're doing with Ox and Lamb. Like
Oh,
similarly,
thanks.
like trying to do do something cool and different and
Yeah.
and feature like artists and the music they're writing. So yeah.
Right. Right.
So it'll be ongoing. You're already talking to
Ev-
people about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I already have somebody signed for next year.
Yeah.
So this year I sort of crossed my fingers and was like, okay, I hope they write stuff that it's a nice collection of 3 pieces. And so Andrea
Right.
wrote a vibes piece, Mike wrote a marimba piece, and Evelyn wrote a marimba piece.
Yeah,
And
cool.
so next year I was like, okay, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into that. I want to kind of reach out to the rest of the community or people that are maybe bent the other way. So I was like, okay, next year's just going to be a drum year. 2022 will be a drum year.
Yeah.
And so I asked somebody to write a drum set solo, just a 4-piece drum set solo, ride, crash, hi-hat.
Yeah.
And I asked Peter Erskine, and he said yes.
Oh, no
So-
way. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
Wow,
so Peter-
we're getting all the we're spilling the
I know.
tea here on the Black Swan podcast.
I love it,
Yeah,
I love it.
an
I know.
exclusive. Yeah, that's
right.
great,
breaking,
man.
Breaking news. And then
Yeah.
I have 2 other people. They haven't signed contracts yet, so I don't want to say. But anyway, I'm
Oh,
just
cool.
so excited, and
Yeah.
I think people are getting behind it, and people are always excited when I mention the composers and the people. They're like, oh wow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I plan on talking about the next step. I plan on you and I talked about PASIC in person this year, and I plan on having
Yeah.
a booth at PASIC
Yeah,
this
very
year.
cool.
Just mainly to kind of put a face to the name and just get more of my community, because this is my community base,
Right.
percussionists in high school and college and beyond, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, I think that's as far as trade shows go, and especially PASIC, like that.
Yeah.
That's the value I've always seen in PASIC. Like,
Sure.
I mean, of course, there's a sort of a monetary. I mean, there's an expense, obviously, but
Sure, yeah.
we also work with some of our retail partners there, and we sell products and stuff like that.
Great.
But for me, like the value is like, yeah, meeting people that I already know and our artists and our supporters.
Yeah.
And like yourself there, but then also meeting new people or meeting students that use our product and are like sort of excited, so you
love
kind
it.
of see this
Yeah.
new excitement from students or younger players, or even like educators or older players that still love percussion instruments and then
Yeah.
come by and play stuff and ask questions. And so I to me that's like one of the biggest benefits of going to PASIC. So
Tim, I've thought about this. I don't care how digital our world gets in the future. I don't think
Sure.
there's ever going to be a replacement for just face-to-face making human connections like that. So
Yeah, sure.
I'm right. I'm on board with it. I'm right there with you.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Josh.
Hey, you're welcome, Tim.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I do kind of have one other question before
Sure.
we maybe put a little bow on this. Like,
Okay.
and it's one that I kind of like to ask. I don't know if I ask it of every guest, but
Okay.
sometimes I like to find out about inspiration, like what people are watching, what they're listening to. I mean, you mentioned podcasts earlier, the Side Hustle School podcast. Like,
Yeah.
are there other things out there, even not in the music world or in the music world, that you kind of find a consistent source of inspiration or from?
There's an author called John Acuff, Acuff, and he's out of Nashville. He's just released his 7th book, and one of his books was called Start, and it was all about inspiration on how to start a project. And I kind of got on board learning about him when he wrote his most recent, before this one, book called Finish, and it's about how to finish a project. And he did a bunch of research and things like that. And his new book is called Soundtracks, which I'll probably pick up this summer or something like that.
Yeah,
talking
cool.
about sort of the soundtracks we have in our head, the things that we tell ourselves, you know.
Right.
I just listened to his podcast. He's a funny guy, and he's really quick, and he makes a lot of really quick references. And anyway, I'm just
He's a lot like
John,
me.
yeah, carbon copy, carbon copy. So for the last couple of weeks, John Acuff has been my jam. Just listening to that and doing a lot of that. Yeah, for sure.
No, I mean, podcasts are like the guys at work. I've probably mentioned this on this podcast before. Like,
Yeah.
They sit and work and listen to podcasts all day. Like, I mean,
Right.
we gotta have some rules and regulations. We're OSHA approved. Like, like if you're doing certain tasks, you need to not be listening to something. You need to be in tune to what you're doing. But
Right.
if it's
Wear
kind of
a shirt, wear shoes.
have shoes and a shirt on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
But if they're, they have an opportunity, if it's kind of general assembly stuff or packaging or whatever kind of routine type things,
Staff
they just
meetings, right? Yeah.
yeah. Just tune me out, guys. Tune me out. It's totally cool. They listen to podcasts and from everything, politics, religion, like social things, like inspiration, like you're kind of talking about. So I love kind of hearing about that. Unfortunately, I talked to my wife about this too, because we bounce podcasts off each other all the time.
Yeah.
And she's a graphic designer, and she can sit and work, design, and listen to podcasts. And it's like almost kind of background, but yet she is listening and absorbing it, but she can't listen to music. Like, she gets sort of sidetracked if she tries to listen to music, where I'm the opposite. I put on Spotify or not Pandora, but whatever. I put on, my playlists, and I just work. I can sit at work and have music on, but I can't listen to people talk while I'm working, because then if I'm sending out an email, I find myself like, I just stop and then I stare out the window, and then 5 minutes have gone by and I realize I haven't done anything. That I'm like listening to what they're saying. So
there are some podcasts I love, but I can't do it while I'm driving because I love it so much. I want to take notes.
Yeah.
And, it's like good nuggets of information. So if I'm driving, I have to have podcasts that are sort of like you're just telling me a story or something like that.
Yeah, there's one I listen to. It's actually called The Bible Project, and if you're familiar with it, I guess maybe
a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's super cool because
is that Francis Chan's thing?
I don't think so. I forget the guys' names, but
Okay.
they have an online presence. They do a lot of videos and they do a lot of animation. It's like super well done.
Oh, cool.
And then they kind of do these deep dives into scripture and things like that. And so I do, like, I'll listen to it going to and home from work sometimes. And totally. I'm like, oh gosh, I need to be taking notes right now. Like, I need to know what's going on.
There's pressure.
Or just, I listen to a lot of NPR podcasts then, and just like things, about social issues and politics or whatever. And I'm just like, oh man, I need to pull over, man. And just like write stuff down. So it is, I have tried to figure out, okay, what's the best way to, like, do I need like a separate, like one of those old school tape recorders where I can literally just be like talk into it, like press pause and then talk in it, so I have it for the future. But
you got it on your phone. You got voice memos on your phone.
Yeah, but then I'm listening to the podcast, and then I gotta
gotcha.
I got on the phone. It's so.
I got you. Yeah, you mean while you're listening? Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's funny.
Yeah, cool. It's good to hear. And anything else you want to shout out, or to kind of, we can find all your deets, all your Oxenland deets on the webs and the socials and everything.
Oxenlandmusic.com. Yeah, just oxenlandmusic.com. Just that's your one-stop shop. Yeah. For me and all of the limited edition music club music for this year.
Limited edition club. Yeah. Okay, so the title of this project is expanding, and
it is. Yeah. It's the
2021
Oxenland Music Club limited edition, as dubbed by Tim Church.
Wait,
TM trademark.
Copyright. No, titles are hard, man, because part of the reason why I was not fully prepared for this conversation is because we're just wrapping up. When I say we, Nathan and I wrapping up our next sound solution project.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when people are listening to this, the project's already over and you missed it. Sorry. But
Yeah, missed out.
we do like a
Talk
couple
about
times
limited edition. Yeah.
yeah, we do these couple times a year. Yeah, well, we do these sound solution projects, and it's a name I kind of came up with several years ago, and I'm sort of tired of it now. It's kind of like, well, and it's not the most like catchy thing. It's kind of corporate or just like kind of silly, but it was like the best I could do at the time, and so unfortunately, a lot of things at work, you're like, you have the best intentions to like plan things out and like come up with like all these great ideas, and then it's like we have so much going on that we get it done, we sort of meet our mental deadline or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, we got it done, we got it out there. So I don't know, I'm rethinking the name of that too, because it's kind of hard. So
if you watch Parks and Rec, you need Tom Haverford to come in and rebrand you.
Okay.
Have you ever seen that show?
I've seen it, but I'm not overly familiar with it. So
his whole thing was just rebranding things. Like the city wanted to take fluoride out of the drinking water, and so he rebranded it. Tea-Dazzle. It's the dazzle for your teeth, and so you drink 10 gallons of Tea-Dazzle in a week, you're gonna get your Tea-Dazzle Club card, and Anyway.
I'll write down Parks and Rec also.
Yeah.
I'm making that now.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we've reached about an hour here, so that's my mental bandwidth for a podcast conversation is about an hour. So I've
you can tap out if you want to.
That's okay. Fine. You can keep talking. I might have to go get something to eat. So do you want me to just keep recording and you could just kind of talk?
Just
make
me something to eat. Let me watch you eat.
Stream of consciousness.
Deep thoughts. Hey man, it's been good to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it's been a blast. I say this at the end of every podcast episode, I think, but you and I have known each other for years, but I always kind of learn something new, and I kind of get a little bit more a story behind people and what they're doing. So I love it. And if other people care and want to listen to the podcast, that's even better. But
just icing on the cake.
Yeah, it's more about me than anyone. So
sure.
I really appreciate you spend time. I appreciate all the support like you've given us over the last several years and shown us. I appreciate collaborating on projects and everything. So
yeah, it goes both ways, Tim. I appreciate all the products and the craftsmanship and the workmanship and all of the care that you all put into everything you do, not just the products, but also with how you treat the artists and how you treat others. So, it's just great. The affection is mutual.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. We'll give a bro hug next time we see each other. A big old bro hug.
I'll force you into one.
Yeah, I've always, even pre-pandemic, I'm not a hugger, man. Like
I know.
Jamel always liked. Yeah, he'll just well, not lately, but he'll just come up behind me and give me like
sneak
a bear
attack.
hug. Yeah, sneak attack. And it's like so. I'm working on that. I'm working on that, Josh. There's something behind it.
We got to keep people like you on their toes, Tim.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Yep. This has been a BSP production, recorded and produced out of the Black Swamp Percussion Facilities in Zeeland, Michigan. Audio and production assistance by Nathan Coles. Intro and outro music by Adam Hopper. Music sprinkled throughout the episode featured performances by Josh Smith, as well as excerpts from Strobilante's Andrea Vinay's Music Club composition, as well as selections from the BSP Collective, with performances by Ben Cantrell and Gustavo Miranda. Visit the show notes for this episode to find YouTube links to some of this music.